The chances are you found me because you're interested in knowing how to use essential oils for diverticulitis. My name's Elizabeth Ashley and I am an aromatherapist with 25 years experience, and I recently had an email from a lady called Ruth who was very interested to know what my opinions were about essential oils for the condition. She says that she's already using some essential oils. She says she's using lavender, marjoram and peppermint, and did I have any more ideas? Ruth, I've got lots. So for those of you who are not sure, diverticulitis or diverticulosis is a condition of the bowel that develops little pockets that attract bacteria and become inflamed, and when it becomes infected and painful, we call it diverticulitis. So we're talking about the area of the bowel. Now, aromatherapy has become synonymous with the use of essential oils, but there's lots more to aromatherapy than just dealing with the actual symptoms themselves. Obviously, if you go to the doctors, he'll give you a treatment that will suppress the symptoms, and when you're in pain, that's fantastic. But aromatherapy seeks to go deeper than that, because we believe that the body's trying to tell you something and that pain is the body's way of saying, hang on, I've got something I want to tell you here, something I'm not very happy with. So we use essential oils that will not only deal with the symptoms themselves, but also to look at the emotional aspect to try to remedy that as well. Now, obviously, that's a very complex aspect. To cut to the chase, the first oil that I would choose is an oil called spikenard oil, and I've written a book about that. You can find the Secret Healer series on Amazon, and this is a big book. For those of you who are interested, spikenard was supposed to be the oil that Mary embalmed Jesus's feet with, and there's a lot in there about the history of the plant, but spikenard has the most beautiful action on the bowel, and in the 1800s it was used extensively in India to help alleviate cholera, and there's quite a lot of interesting research in here where there was some doctors who were actively campaigning to help the cholera outbreak in this country, in England, but they were just ignored. But it was being well treated in India using spikenard. Now, spikenard has this wonderfully calming effect on the bowel and the colon and the intestines, particularly if there is a situation where there's constipation and then there is diarrhea as well. So spikenard's very good at being able to pacify that and to keep it much calmer. So that would be my choice. I would also use jasmine, which is very good for anxiety generally, but it helps conditions that feel hot and inflamed. So yeah, I love jasmine. So spikenard, jasmine, and I probably would use some rose as well. Now, rose is laxative, so if you already have quite a lot of diarrhea, I'd lay off that one for the moment. Just use the spikenard and jasmine. But if you start to get a little bit bunged up, then rose is lovely. And rose, of course, is the essential oil of love. And we're really showing the gut some love here, because did you know we have two brains? I bet you didn't. So the first brain is obviously the one that we think with. We make decisions and think philosophical thoughts and have ideas about religion and, you know, multiplication and all of those things. They happen in the brain that's in our head. But also there is a second brain which lives in the gut. It's called our enteric nervous system. Now, the enteric nervous system runs from the esophagus down to the anus. So that's about a length of around about 9 meters, and it's all squiggled together and gnarly and folded it all into the small space. But in that 9 meters, would you believe there are as many as 100 million neurons? So those are nerve endings that send messages, and the chemicals that send messages in the brain are called neurotransmitters, and the brain uses 30 neurotransmitters. The gut also uses the same 30 neurotransmitters, and actually serotonin, which is one of the main neurotransmitters that the doctors use to treat depression, 90% of the serotonin in the body is found in the gut and is actually manufactured in the gut. Now, the enteric nervous system and the gut itself is the only organ in the body that can work without this brain. It doesn't actually take signals from here, and strangely the vagus nerve, which is the main nerve that goes up, 90% of the fibers that go from up the vagus nerves are sending messages from the gut up to the brain. So it's not going that way to that way, it's going that way to that way. And very, very interestingly, if the doctors have found that if they stimulate this vagus nerve, so they make more messages go that way to that way, that helps depression. So that's very interesting, isn't it? We can't overlook the connection between what's happening here, and particularly here in our emotions, with what's going on in our stomach, because we do believe, scientists are now believing that the emotions actually emanate from the stomach. So we need to be really thinking about, well, what's my bowel trying to tell me? Because it's wonderful to be able to take the spikenard to reduce the cramping and the pain, but that will work lovely for a while. But if we haven't addressed the issue that the stomach's complaining about in the first place, then it's going to go, did you remember? And it's going to ask us to do that again. So we need to be thinking about that. So what I would say to you, we're using the spikenard, the jasmine, perhaps some calendula as well. Calendula is very good for the bowel, and the rose if we're not got diarrhea. We're going to use those, but we're also going to start journaling. And I am a big believer in writing a diary each day and trying to get to the root of, well, on the patterns where I was a little bit fed up and frankly I wanted to punch somebody, what did my stomach do? Who triggered that? Right, okay, oh, now there's a pattern. Right, so when it kicked off a week ago, what was happening in my life there? And we start to see the patterns here, because you know what's going on here in the stomach is very much to do with how safe we feel in the world. Because right from the smallest baby, the cells of our body, all of which can talk to each other, that's been proven. It's not just the brain that talks to other cells. Every cell has the ability to talk to each other, and memories lodge in those cells. So what memories, what traumas are my stomach starting to talk to me about? And so I would really recommend that for the next month you sat down, you wrote what you ate, because that of course can be a definite thing of, right, okay, I've put a bit too much pressure on my bowel. So what you ate, how you were feeling, and so how did you feel up here, how did you feel here, and how did you feel here? You know, there's 3 different thought processes going on here. You've got the emotional brain, you've got your tummy, right, what's going on inside here, how does it physically hurt, and the thoughts that were going on in the day. So you might want to write it down in 3 sections each day, and it doesn't need to be lots and lots and lots, or even record it like this for you, so you don't have to put it on the internet, can you? You can just be able to look back at yourself and go, oh, I didn't look very happy that day, did I? What happened? And what's very, very interesting is science now tells us that the moods that we have perhaps don't influence our stomach. It might be our stomach influencing our moods. So there's a definite correlation. We're just not sure which way they go, but undoubtedly they're connected. So now let me have a look who asked me. Pam Tate also wanted to know about the diverticulitis, but she wanted to know how we would apply it. And I think there's a definite argument for having a 3-tiered approach. So if we're going to be affecting our emotions, Then putting some oils in the diffuser to calm us, to make us feel a little bit safer in the world, then that's great. So we can use those ones, and particularly jasmine. Jasmine is just such an anti-anxiety oil, and a bit of orange as well. It's uplifting and very, very reassuring. So if we're having a time in our life where we don't feel secure, then that's a lovely combination to put in the diffuser. And in the bath, I mean, wow, that's super, super sexy. And I think that it's worth saying as well, this area of our stomach is an interfaced by the solar plexus chakra. And that's quintessentially to do with how do we feel about our place in the world? Do we trust that we are being looked after, but also do we trust that we're strong enough to be in the world? How is our self-esteem? Excuse me. So yeah, solar plexus medicine. So let's really think. It's worth just reading up. I'm not going to do a big video on solar plexus medicine because I've written lots in my Mind Body Spirit book, which I can't lay my hands on at the moment, but if you look back at your Mind Body Spirit book, there's lots about the solar plexus in there. And just have a think about, right, okay, how do I feel about those issues? And that's very, very useful in the bath and in the diffuser with the essential oils. There's an argument for having massage, because that's really going to calm us anyway. I mean, the essential oils do their job, but massage is just beautiful for releasing the tissues. But I think if I were to treat you, I would probably be making a small cream in a 50 ml pot. So what's that in American language? It's a 2-ounce pot, isn't it? I would put a tablespoon of calendula carrier into that to thicken it, but also to use calendula's properties in there. And I'd have, in 50 ml, I'd have 3 drops of spikenard. I would have a drop of orange to lift for the top note, and I would have 2 drops of jasmine in there as well. And I think that would just be absolutely gorgeous. And I would generally, excuse me for my very fat tummy, but oh, I don't think you can get there in a minute. Right, so your intestines are going all round here, aren't they? So I would use it daily, and I would do 2 strokes up, 2 across, 2 down, 1 across the pelvis. And I would do up, down, across, down, 5 times a day. Because you can't overdose on those oils. All the body's going to do is it's going to take what it needs and get rid of the rest in a rather unpleasant fashion. And remember, when it's doing that breaking down of your food, and it's deciding that it's going to break down your essential oils and it's going to move it into the system, that information is going to be carried by the vagus nerve up into the brain. Yeah, so you've got this fantastic wheel of information. So that's what I would do. I would start journaling. I'd look at your treatment for a month, and a 2-ounce pot's going to give you enough for a month. And yeah, if at the end of that month you still feel really not very good and you want some more help, message me on the Facebook page. I'm more than happy to take people on as patients, and we can work more deeply to try to understand what's going on in your emotions and settle those, to take that sticking plaster off, and for you to be able to do more than manage your symptoms, but actually let go of them. So I hope that's helped you, Ruth and Pat, and hope you feel better. Thanks.